right. Welcome back into Jake's Takes. I am your host, Jake Masucci, and today I got on my guy, Aaron Smith. I'm super excited for this episode. We're doing our NFL draft preview for the second straight year. So I'm super excited for this. Aaron had some crazy sleepers up his hand last year with the Sam Laporta call, all those calls. They were fantastic. It was unbelievable stuff. So I'm telling you, I'm bringing the best in the business in to come back for it. So Aaron, how we doing today, man?
Man, I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for
Yes,
having me
sir.
on again.
Yes, sir. So last we were talking NFL playoffs, which was flat out insane.
Yep.
And the Chiefs ended up winning a crazy Super Bowl, Chiefs 49ers, and the Lions went super far, NFC Championship. You had the Lions winning it all. Like, you were all in on that Lions team. I completely loved it. Talk to me about your reaction of the Lions season before we get going with draft.
I mean, it was everything I was hoping for, man. That was the greatest season of my life. So it was a lot of fun to watch. Devastating second half of the NFC Championship, but overall, man, I was super excited and even more excited about next year, man.
Yeah, I mean, dude, the Lions, it was a sensational year. I just wanted to highlight it a little bit just because of how unbelievable it was, and it's so cool that the draft is in Detroit this year. It's going to be sweet. And, like, as a Lions fan, we should just be super excited. Like, just unbelievable future coming up, and it's going to be really exciting there. But today we're here to talk about draft. Okay, we're doing a full draft preview, and there's kind of two main categories that we're going to talk about. I think it's really a quarterback receiver driven draft this year. So Aaron and I decided just talk about our top QBs, talk about top receivers. We're still going to do the mock draft that we did like last year, do a little mock draft of 10 teams, but we're going to start with quarterbacks. So Aaron, talk to me. Let's rank the top two to start, and we'll talk about those guys super in depth. So talk to me about, like, looking at this stacked quarterback class, who would be your top two if you're looking at it?
My top two is Caleb at one, definitely. Even though I know people have been talking about him not being one anymore, but he is, and that hasn't changed in 2 years. Jaden Daniels made an insane run this year, Heisman Trophy winner, best player in the league this year. But I'm still going to take Drake May as a prospect over him. So that would leave me at Caleb, Drake, and Jaden as 1, 2, and 3 in my quarterback prospects.
I like it. I'm very similar in that aspect. Like, I've talked draft a lot off air this year. I did a lot of coverage for it last year, and finally getting into it now. And I keep seeing this research, and I'm like, oh, the people are up and down on Caleb. I feel like it's just more that's like just the modern media, trying to put a story out there like, oh, Caleb's not this. He's not the guy that everybody says. And the truth is Caleb is that guy as a prospect. He's just a flat out unbelievable prospect. He's very hated amongst like almost everybody, but those guys can sometimes succeed. And I feel like, like putting him in, I think he's clearly going to be the number one overall pick to the Bears. So putting him in that Bears situation is definitely going to be interesting to see how he like plays with those toys and see how he kind of develops. It's super hard for a rookie quarterback to succeed right away. So I think that part will be very, very interesting because there's going to be so much expectation just because of what we saw from CJ Stroud. Like, CJ Stroud's rookie season was a complete anomaly. And Caleb Williams is going to come in with those expectations, which is going to be tough for him. But I think he's clear number one. Maybe the best prospect I've seen. That's like a crazy argument. I think the only name that comes to mind that could be close is Andrew Luck. But overall with Caleb, I want to give him his flowers as a prospect because he's unbelievable. Would you agree with me in saying that he's like the best prospect you've seen?
Yeah, I mean, off the top of my head, definitely, because I've been thinking about him as a prospect a lot. But I think that was a lot of the talk last year when he won the Heisman, was how he's this unbelievable prospect and he could go to the draft right now and be the number one pick, blah, blah, blah. But now with everything unraveling and he's got a little bit more to prove now that people are sort of doubting him, And I think that makes him a better prospect overall. And now he's coming into a better situation than he's looked at his whole college career. Like, when he was looking to the NFL, he was seeing these really bad teams. And now the Bears, who had a little bit of upside last year, even though they sucked, put together some weapons for him, and he's probably raring to go. He's like, I'm going number one. I'm ready to prove everybody that I am that guy. And he's got these amazing weapons to throw to. Hopefully, they can build him an O line that's even better than it was for Fields. And yeah, he's going to be good. And I've always thought that. So
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to give him his flowers on this podcast because I do really think that he is like that guy when it's a
mhm.
prospect. You know, he's got the arm talent. He can move all over the place. He's a great pocket passer. You know, that USC O line was horrible. It just was. You know, I really didn't think he had much help last year, and like that kind of hurt him, and it hurt his
Mhm.
public perception as well. So I really think he'll be okay at that in that bear spot with the number one. Looking at number two, so you have May over Daniels. I am actually one of the few people that agree with you that May, I think, would be two, and then Daniels would be three. I think a lot of people have Daniels in that two slot, and then Drake May slide into that three spot. And I think this conversation is really, really interesting because when you look at it and you're a college football fan, and you're like, all right, I watched these two play, and Daniels' improvement was just absolutely insane. You know, he went from a very solid quarterback, like above average, he was figuring out, and then it clicked. Like just like that, and absolutely went crazy this year, won the Heisman, and you're seeing his weapons have great stuff, which we'll talk about the receivers later.
Yep.
I mean, like Daniels' season was unbelievable. And then you look at Drake May, kind of similar to Caleb Williams, was more of the talk last year, you know, and then North Carolina, they started out okay, and then they started losing. And it's similar where May didn't have that help and that North Carolina team kind of fell apart. So I think it's very interesting that people just decided to flip on it like right away. So talk to me about May versus Daniels and why you gave the slight edge to May in that aspect.
Yeah, I mean it's very close, and the hard thing about it is it's hard to put May ahead of Daniels without taking anything away from Daniels, which I don't want to do
Yeah.
because he had an unbelievable season. He can do unbelievable things with the football, and he's hopefully he's gonna be good in the NFL. I believe he'll be decent to start out. And when it comes down to it, though, when I look at when I look at May, he's a little bit taller, a little bit stronger. He can do a lot of the things that Daniels can do, and he's way younger.
Yeah.
So those are pretty much the main aspects of why I would draft him if I needed a franchise quarterback over a fifth year senior that was only good late in his career and not like through his whole career. And then the other thing is, what if you throw Drake May on the LSU Tigers? Like, and
Yeah.
he has three NFL draft receivers to throw to and a great O line. And I'm not saying that Carolina sucked or anything like that, but LSU's different, and I think Daniels had a lot more to work with. And yeah, overall, I just think May's just a better guy to draft for the future.
Yeah, no, I mean, I like that completely. I like it completely. I think with Drake May and Caleb Williams, like the stock just kind of fell because their
Yep,
team kind of fell, and you saw the weaknesses. You saw how young both of them are and how much development they do need. So,
that's true.
I mean, with Daniels, he's an older prospect. You know, we saw the improvement. It seemed like something clicked, and you can tell in the film too. The reason why people like him so much is because like a lot of people saw him throwing guys open. And when people see that in college football, they're like, whoa, like this is going
Yeah.
to translate. This is going to be absolutely insane, you know? And if he can continue that, like I think it could be 100% scary. And he's one of the most athletic quarterbacks like in a while. I mean, the rise that we saw from Daniels was similar to like the rise of Anthony Richardson last year. This year,
Right.
I get it more than what I saw from Richardson last year as a prospect, you know? I get it more this year with Daniels just because it was LSU. He was the Heisman Trophy winner. He was clearly like that guy.
Hmm.
But like with a rookie quarterback, again, like I was talking about, you're going to be walking into a system that's like not made for you yet. It's not made for you to succeed right away. And I think Daniels and May will struggle like instantly right when they walk in. And the one reason why I'm giving a little bit of a nod to Drake May was even though last year North Carolina like wasn't a great team, I always loved turning on the games and just watching him in the pocket. And there's few guys in college football that, like, I like doing that. Caleb
Yeah.
Williams was one of those guys. Drake May was one of those guys. Bryce Young was one of those guys, and that's
Yep.
why I get high on those quarterbacks. I'm like, "Man, like, this guy, is that." And that's why to me, like, if Drake May's coming out last year, I'm picking him over Bryce Young. It's just the truth. Like, I think this guy can do more. He's more creative in the pocket. He can get out of the pocket and still create a play. I mean, you saw that left-handed throw he had for a
Yep.
touchdown. That was sensational. Um, like just that talent level can't be taught.
Right.
And then when you look at it, like, yes, he's gonna be young, it's gonna take some steps. You saw it with Mahomes. Like, he sat a year under a good coaching staff and like learned a lot. I think it's gonna take like a year or two for the Drake May or the Caleb Williams or even the Jaden Daniels to like actually develop. It's just really cool to talk about these quarterbacks in like such a high, kind of standard. You know what I
Yep.
mean?
100%.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah, I
I'm
agree.
excited for these three for sure. Quick question for you. If you're looking at these three, who do you think has the highest potential going into the NFL? So like probably like if they hit their ceiling, could like either any of them be like the best quarterback in the NFL? You think like multiple Super Bowls, anything like that with any of these three guys?
Well, I think it's hard to not think like that when you look at Caleb's game. I mean, he plays like the most modern quarterback we've ever seen. He makes plays like Mahomes, and he's got a cannon. He can move. It's a little unfair though because it really depends on where each of them end up,
Yeah.
and honestly, I mean, it sucks as a Lions fan, but I feel like the Bears are the best situation for all three of these quarterbacks.
Yeah.
At least out of these top three teams. So I would have to say Caleb just because he's I think he's the best and he's got the best situation coming at him. But if they decide to go Daniels at one or whatever, like some people are saying, then
Yeah.
maybe Jaden Daniels will be the best out of these three. Um, but yeah, I mean that's a good question. I mean ceiling that's hard to predict. So
Ceiling's really, really hard to
um,
predict. But
but yeah, I'd say on the Bears, that's the highest chance to get to
yeah,
like S tier in the league at the moment. I mean, I still don't like their coaching, but with all the weapons, it's hard. That's what makes it easy on the young quarterbacks is having weapons to throw to. And the Commanders and Patriots just don't have that right now.
yeah,
So yeah, I'm gonna say Caleb. He's got the chance. He's got a chance. He's got to
for
work hard.
sure. For sure. Yeah, I mean, like, for me, like, I'm a little lower on Daniels, but I think potential-wise, it is Daniels. The reason
Okay.
why I'm a little lower on him is because of some of the hits he takes. Like, if you
Yeah.
dive into, like, his film and, like, look at some of his pocket awareness, like, especially the year before, some of the hits this guy was taking, it's scary, It's
hmm
like, "Oh, man," like, I just don't know how much he'd last. And that's the thing with Richardson too. Like the hits he takes, like they're tough hits. And
And
that's
he
what
got hurt.
happens with these. Yeah, and he got hurt. Exactly.
Yeah.
So like that's what happens with these kind of running quarterbacks. I think Daniels has the most arm talent out of like running quarterbacks that we've seen, you know. But that's the thing with those guys, like injuries can kind of sneak up. Like I'm not rooting for it to happen at all, but it just does happen, because
hmm
they're learning how to use their body and how to like shield themselves from the defender. Like you saw with Tua, he had to learn how to fall correctly in order to stay
Right.
healthy. It happens with these guys, and I mean, I think Daniels potential wise, definitely. Because you're already seeing him make the reads. You're already seeing him like with his running. It was flat out incredible. I think this was peak performance. And if he were to go with like the Bears, it would be sensational. Like he would
Yep.
have great weapons, and if he has a great line, like man, like that's a great system to have. One thing that concerns me with him is injury, and that's partly why I still have Drake May over him. But overall, I think these three quarterbacks are super exciting, and they're so much fun to
hmm
talk about. So
Yep.
it's definitely going to be interesting for sure. I'm really looking forward to it. All right, let's move into JJ. Okay, I
Okay.
kind of put JJ in his own category just because some people have him in that top 3 tier, others have him just a little bit lower. talk to me about your opinion of JJ. I mean, I got the jersey here. You said it to me off air. You were like, "Why do you have that out?" So talk to me about your opinion of JJ at the draft prospect.
Um, unfortunately, I've never been really high on JJ. I don't think we saw very much of him in college. I've kind of always known of his talent level. I just wish we could have been more of a passer than a hander offer at Michigan,
Yeah,
you know? Um, but what I think it comes down to is once the first three guys or top three quarterbacks are gone, it's kind of either you'd go with JJ or you risk the injury prone uh, Michael Penix or the
yeah.
Bo Nix, those guys that are 24
Hmm.
and not top of their draft class like Jaden Daniels is. So, I mean, I kind of like this talk of people trading up for JJ because if you want a young quarterback, you want someone that can sit out a little bit and then come into his own, then go for it. Trade up for him. Don't sit around. Don't like just let it happen. Like if you want that, go for it. But at the same time, it's still a risk. I don't know if it's as much of a risk as somebody like Michael Penix. Um, but yeah, I really don't know how to predict that because I feel like we didn't see enough about him. Um,
Yeah.
I always heard things about him being a good leader, that
Hmm.
kind of thing, good locker room guy. So I think he'll fit well at any team. Um, but yeah, I I don't know. I think JJ's a good football player. So
Yeah.
if he can mesh well with the team that takes him, then he has a high ceiling. If not, then hopefully he has somebody to hand the ball off to.
Yeah. I mean, like, I agree with you in the fact, like, he's an unknown, you know?
Yeah.
I was very much like, okay, this guy is a first round pick. I was
Hmm.
all in on that, like right when he came out. And now people like talking about him as top 5 and stuff. And I'm like, okay, let's back up a second, right? Because I was locked in on Michigan football all the way through. You know, I saw every game. There was that Bowling Green game that sticks out in everybody's mind where this guy throws 3 interceptions against Bowling Green. And you're like, whoa, like what is this? Some of the reads that
Right.
this guy's made, they're scary. You know, sometimes like that throw against Ohio State where it goes behind the guy's back over his shoulder, and then Roman Wilson makes the catch. It's like you shouldn't throw that ball, but he did. And sometimes that's a good thing, and sometimes it's a bad thing. With JJ, I think he's a guy that just needs to sit. Okay, like he can't start right away, and that's the one thing I'm nervous about because I think he's gonna end up on a team and they're gonna start him and they're gonna throw him in the water and like make and he's gonna have to like carry them, and I don't think he's there yet. And
Yeah.
that was one thing with Michigan. Like I wanted Michigan to throw him in the water in games where they're winning because like I didn't want a Georgia situation to happen like 2 years ago where JJ has to carry them out of it. And then everybody blames JJ because he threw 2 pick sixes, but he also had 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. So it's
Yep.
like, that turns into a bad performance because he makes 2 mistakes because he's never put in that situation, you know? So maybe having a rookie year where it's one of the worst we've seen and like he gets to learn from that and he gets the ball in his hand and he throws it a lot and starts to understand things might be the best thing for him. But I like that people want to trade up for him and want to get him because I think he'll end up being a solid starting quarterback. I think he's got the pieces for it. I just don't think it's going to translate right away. I think it would be a very difficult rookie season for him if he were to start somewhere, and I'm not sure about it. That's like my honest take on JJ. Like I love him, dude's best quarterback I've seen in Michigan ever. You know,
Hmm.
but that's the honest take there. Like he's a great prospect, but like I feel like if he wasn't a quarterback and like this quarterback class wasn't this stacked, and I feel like he should just be around that 15 range, not the 5 range, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think that's a good take. And I think it was kind of unfortunate. I mean, you can't take anything away from Michigan did because they won the Natty, but they kind of didn't. They took the Natty without really developing JJ.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean, like Ohio State and CJ Stroud 0-2 against Michigan, didn't win a Big Ten, whatever. But he comes out and he's easily the best rookie quarterback. He's just firing at all of his weapons. he's right. He's starting right away, and he's just out there slinging it. And I don't think JJ's got enough experience to do that.
Yeah.
He hasn't. And it's nothing. It's nothing on him because I think he's capable of it. I always did. Like when he was a prospect, going out of or coming out of high school, I was like, man, this dude's a freak. He can throw
Yeah.
the ball, doing a 360, whatever. He can run. He can throw it 70 yards. Um, but unfortunately, he didn't really develop that much at Michigan. He kind of just he was behind McNamara, and then he
Yep.
was kind of just following this running game through to a natty. Um, so yeah, I agree. He's gonna have to get some experience. I don't know where. I really
Yeah.
I hope for the guy that it's a good situation and he has somewhere he can learn.
Not
You know,
Minnesota, right?
yeah, Minnesota be rough because there's really no one to play behind there right now.
Yeah.
So um, yeah, no, that's a good take.
Yeah. JJ will definitely be interesting, and I think he's kind of his own category there. So if you had to pick a fifth quarterback, like a second round guy, it's probably going to end up being a second round guy. Some people talk about Bo Nix in the first round. That don't talk about that. That he shouldn't be a first round pick. That's just my opinion, but whatever. Who would be your fifth quarterback if you had to pick one?
It's so tough.
It is.
I think looking at it right now, you have to take Michael Penix based
Yep.
off what he can do with the ball. His deep ball is so
Insane.
good. It's
Yeah.
so good. I mean, he just throws darts and his yeah, you know what I mean. And but I have been a guy that wants to see Bo Nix go off because when he's going off, he's fun to watch. So if
Mhm.
he can just figure it out, I think he has the talent to do something. Um, I don't know. I think I'm taking Michael Penix right now though, just because of what he can do with the ball.
Yeah, I agree completely. And I've said my Michael Penix spiel before, which is the one thing we're both nervous about is his injuries.
Right.
Injuries. He's a fantastic, like pocket awareness guy, deep ball thrower. Injuries is just going to be the concern. I think it's him and Daniels where injuries are my concern with both of them. And yeah, I mean, I think he could be a very solid quarterback, but I don't think Penix or Bo Nix are worth a first round pick. It's just my opinion.
I
Uh,
agree.
all right, so receivers. Let's talk about receivers, okay?
Okay.
This is a pretty stacked class for receivers. So both of our number one is Marvin Harrison. It's got to be,
Yep.
right? Okay.
hmm
I just had to make sure because some people started talking about it. I do want to get this take before we talk about Marvin Harrison. People are talking about Malik Neighbors now versus Marvin Harrison, and I'm
Yep.
saying this. I'm like, all right, this has got to be a combine thing. It's got to be
Yeah.
because Marvin Harrison did not go to the combine. So all these NFL draft people are like doing fake news and saying, "Oh, we might pick Neighbors instead." Just to create conversation. You're not picking Neighbors, man. Marvin Harrison is the best one by far, okay? It's not even close. So, talk to me about Marvin Harrison just as a prospect. I mean, to me, best receiver prospect I've ever seen. This guy's incredible, flat out incredible. So talk to me a little bit about what you think from him.
Yeah. I I remember you telling me about how mad you were about people talking about neighbors. You were like, "This is just to get content. He's not
Yep.
even close to Harrison." Yeah, that that was funny. Um, no, Marvin Harrison is unbelievable. I remember last year people were saying if he was draft eligible, he could go number one overall, and they were saying like he's the most draft ready prospect, and he's not even draft eligible. So I don't think anything's changed since then. I think he's gotten even better. He can go out there and catch the ball over anybody, outrun anybody. But I think you're right. When people go to the draft, these receivers go to the draft and or the combine, I mean, and run these 4.3s, 4.4s. It's
Yeah.
like a little hard to not give him a little credit, even though Marvin didn't go.
Yeah.
But I'm in the same boat as you, and as everybody should be. Marvin Harrison Jr. is definitely the best receiver,
Yeah.
best athlete besides the quarterbacks in this draft.
Yeah. I mean, doing the whole college football season, like I talked about it that the reason why Ohio State would win all these games was because they had Marvin Harrison. Like it was
Yeah,
the only reason. The only reason they beat Notre Dame at the beginning of the year was because Marvin Harrison dragged them to the win.
yeah,
Like they kept winning these close games, and it was just because Marvin Harrison was there. And then I mean the Michigan game happened, but like Marvin Harrison still had a fantastic game and Michigan couldn't cover it.
hmm
It was like that all year. It's like that all year. It was who you were afraid of. And I've talked about this guy enough. Like, he is that guy, 100%. Easily the best receiver prospect I've ever seen. And he should be that 4th overall pick, 5th overall pick, whatever you think's going to happen with the trade up, which we'll probably get to in a mock draft.
Right.
But he'll be the first non-quarterback taken off the board, 100%.
He should be, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Number 2. So 2-3. Okay, it's Rome Odunze or Malik Nabers. What order would you put these two in? And then talk to me a little bit about like what you've seen from these two.
I guess I have to. I mean, I have to say Rome Odunze is my favorite over Nabers. But it's probably just because I watched him more.
Yeah.
I watched a lot more Washington games last year than I did LSU games, and Odunze is like this deep ball threat. He can moss anybody. He catches the deep ball. Like this is what you need when you want to draft a big outside receiver. And but what I've been hearing about Nabers is this dude's just quick. He's got hands, and he's still big too. It's not like Odunze's that much bigger than him. So it's really like, I mean, I would take Odunze then Nabers in my ranking. But if you're drafting, like it's kind of, you just gotta look at your roster and see what kind of receiver you want, and then when it comes down to if you like the guy, that's what I'm doing if I'm a GM. But yeah, I would take Odunze personally over Nabers.
Yeah, and I agree with you 100%. And I think a lot of people have Nabers second, and then Odunze. But with Odunze, man, like you just saw it at Washington. Some of the catches this guy made are just incredible, and he's so smart. You know, he's always open. It's absolutely
even when
insane.
even when he's not open, he's open.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? He's just catching it.
Yeah, I mean, and
like if you saw that it was Penix to Odunze, you were like, oh, that was a catch. Like before you even saw it.
Yeah, like before you even saw it, like this guy is that
and
guy.
Maybe that fun factor for watching is why I'm picking him, because I watched those games and it was fun to watch. But yeah, dude's unbelievable.
I remember us talking about it after the MSU game when they came here. Like we were like, whoa, this team, dude, like holy cow.
Hey, it looked like an NFL guy out there.
Yeah, I know it did. It did. I mean, it like absolutely insane. He's just so tough and smart. Like it's flat out insane. And I think it is like I've watched Washington a little more than LSU throughout the year. And Nabers, like he's got all of the physical talents you want with the speed and the athleticism and the things like that. To me, I just trust Odunze more. You know, he really reminds me of like a Chris Olave. You know, a guy that's just trustworthy and can really, you know, like give you big games. And you've seen how much Olave's like improved throughout the year, and he's turned into that guy in New Orleans. I think he could really find a spot somewhere and really develop. And to me, that's why I would have him number 2. No knock on Nabers at all. I think Nabers is awesome. And a lot of people think that this guy could be like an elite receiver, like a Devontae Adams caliber. And I mean, like that makes sense. I mean, to be honest, I didn't watch him as much, and I mean, I almost like Thomas just as much, which Brian Thomas Jr. is my number 4. You know, like these two guys to me were very similar, and a lot of people like Nabers more, probably more from that combine stuff. But to me, I think Odunze's clear 2, and then I would have Nabers and then Thomas. Would you agree putting Thomas 4 then?
Yeah, I mean Thomas is another guy I don't know that much about, but I've seen him on every single receiver draft board. Him and the 2 Texas guys, Mitchell and Worthy, those kind of guys, you know, those are like the next up after that top 3. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one guy that I wrote down, and it's just because I really, really like him too, is Ladd McConkey from Georgia. I really like him. He'll go.
Yeah, I was just reading about him today.
Yeah, no, he'll go early second, but that guy is legit. Like, whenever Georgia needed a play, Carson Beck would go to him, and he's a real guy. Like, I think he's gonna end up with like a Packers or New England and turn into that like Wes Welker guy that you're like, oh my gosh, this guy again. He makes all these catches, you know. Like I really think he'll turn into that. And I like Xavier Worthy. Like that guy's fast too. He's fast. Really, really fast. And
Texas he caught a lot of attention.
Yeah, a lot of
with
attention
that
for sure.
combine. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like the receiver class this year is really really cool, and it's fun to dive into. But I mean, it's kind of crazy. Like I think with Marvin Harrison, he's like that guy, and then Adunze and Neighbors. I think it'll be real interesting what they
Mhm.
end up being, because I think they could be studs as well. And it's not very often you get like stack classes like this at receiver and quarterback. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the
Yes, sir.
receivers recently have been good. But yeah, this is unreal. There's like 10 that are really good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. All right, well, we're going to shift into draft and sleeper stuff after we take a quick little break. This episode is brought to you by WXOU. WXOU has done so much for me, and I'm really appreciative for everything they've done. I remember being a freshman walking into their radio station and being like, wow, this is really cool. And their podcast director took me by the hand and showed me the first piece of audio technology I've ever seen. And ever since then, I've been running with it. I absolutely love it. And these guys have really done a lot for me. So I just wanted to shout them out. All right. Welcome back into the show. And we are now going to do our little mock draft thing. So what happens in this is pretty much Aaron is going to be the odd teams in the draft. So 1, 3, 5, we'll go back and forth. I'll be 2, 4, 6, and we're going to go all the way to 10. Just do the top 10. And like kind of what we'll do is we're like the GMs of the team. So we're thinking in terms of how they would think, and try to draft the player we think they should draft. And hopefully they listen to us so we look smart. But all right, Aaron, you have the first overall pick. So you are the Chicago Bears. Talk to me about who you're picking.
Well, last year I had the number 1 overall pick, and I went away from the obvious number 1 quarterback in the league or in the draft, and I picked Stroud over Young, and that worked out
Great call.
in my
Great
favor.
call.
However, I am not going to go against Caleb Williams on this pick. He looked like a generational talent. He's young enough to be great and be around for a while. And I think the Bears have been setting up their team this free agency just for Caleb Williams to come in and start rolling. So yeah, Bears are taking Caleb Williams, and they're going to hope that he makes them one of the best offenses in the league.
Love it. Love it. Completely agree. I mean, we talked about it earlier. He's sensational. He's that guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I like it. I like it. All right. Commanders on the clock here. And these two quarterbacks are tough, man. Holy cow. They're really, really tough, because both of them could fit so well with what we want to do. They brought in Cliff Kingsbury as their offensive coordinator. You kind of think like that might be like a little RPO action, maybe wanting someone like that. So we're actually going to go with the Heisman Trophy stud. We're going to go with Jaden Daniels here. Even though I have Drake May over him in my thing, I don't really care that he's injury prone. This guy is going to fit our system perfectly. Cliff Kingsbury, he likes his running quarterbacks. He just does. And I think Daniels is really going to fit with the style that the Commanders will want to play. And I think he's going to rejuvenize Terry McLaurin. I think Terry McLaurin could be a big asset for him, along with Curtis Samuel, guy that's super fast and can really make great plays. I think he's going to be rejuvenized a little bit. One thing I'm concerned about is O-line. Okay, so we're going to stack the running back position to really help him out. We got Austin Eckler in free agency. He's going to be huge for that receiving game to get the ball off quickly, for Daniels to be important there. And then we also got Brian Thomas Jr., who's just a tank. That guy goes through everybody, So if I'm the Commanders, I think the best fit for us would probably be Jaden Daniels in this scenario. What do you think about that?
I think he's a great pick. I think he's a guy that could come out right away as an experienced guy and be their quarterback right now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, number 3.
Okay.
You got New England on the clock.
New England on the clock. I think New England done with Mac Jones. They're ready for their next guy. Best available quarterback. They think it's a steal. Drake May at 3. We are taking him, and he's going to take us to the promised land. This man can run the modern offense. He can move. He can pocket pass. He can make good decisions. He can truck somebody. He can hurdle somebody. New England is very excited for Drake May.
Love it. Love it. I mean, a great pick. I think he'll be a good fit there. They gotta develop some offense a little bit for him, but
It'll
I
take
think
time.
yeah, it'll take some time, but I think he'll be a good fit there for sure. All right, Cardinals number 4. Cardinals have been getting some calls about a trade up a little bit, just a little bit. Like the Vikings very interested
I
in
bet.
trying to get JJ and all this stuff, but the Cardinals said no. We're keeping 4. You know, we got our guy right here, and our guy is Marvin Harrison Jr. You know, this guy is an absolute stud. We've been waiting to bring in the next receiver guy since Larry Fitzgerald. When he left, you know, like we were like,
Yep.
man, we got to get that next guy. And Marvin Harrison is that guy, man. You know, he's going to bring him back to that promised land, to that Super Bowl that they've been waiting for, that Carson Palmer, Larry Fitzgerald Super Bowl all the way back in the day. They want to bring that back. So they want to do it with Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr., getting those guys involved, creating a new system. And you saw that Cardinals team near the end of the year. They were really competing. They showed up against the Eagles, absolutely destroying them late in the season. So I think the Cardinals could pick it up a little bit with a talent like Marvin Harrison. And I think it's a clear pick here. This guy's awesome.
I like that. It's a good pick.
Love it. Love it. All right. Number 5, we got the Chargers.
Yeah. So the Chargers heard a little rumor that Justin Jefferson was on the trading block.
Oh, boy.
Unbelievable. Nobody saw it coming. No one saw it coming. And so they're like, all right, we can make a little offer. We got the 5th pick. We got draft picks. So they're throwing the bag at Justin Jefferson. They're throwing the 5th overall pick, their 2nd overall pick, or 2nd round pick, their 3rd round pick, and their 1st next year for Justin Jefferson.
Wow. Holy cow.
Yep. So the Chargers, they got it all now. But the Vikings are coming in. They got Jordan Addison still. They still got a couple weapons. They're a little young now. They're going to take J.J. McCarthy at the 5th overall pick that they just got from the Chargers. Try and get a little new offense rolling in with Jim Harbaugh. With I forgot his name.
Kevin O'Connell.
Kevin O'Connell. Kevin O'Connell is going to run a new offense, young quarterback, and they still got the now they got the Chargers 11 too, or they got their 11 still. They didn't have to get rid of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're very excited right now. Don't know why, because they still kept Jefferson, but
I absolutely love it. I mean, the Vikings lose Kirk Cousins in the offseason, you know, and there's been talks that Jefferson might be out, you know, like we don't know what it is. If the Chargers throw a bag at him, why not do that? Because then you can go get the quarterback that you want. You still have assets. You still have that 11th pick to go do something. And then you could possibly get a first from them next year. If somebody throws a bag like that, I feel like it would just be very difficult to pass up. And I think it would be the best way to rebuild your team. Because, just to be real, even if you get JJ with Justin Jefferson next year, it's not like they're going to be better than the Bears coming into the season or someone like that, you know, and the Bears are going to be sitting at 3rd in the NFC North. You know, you're still going to be probably the last in the NFC North. So you got to do something drastic, you know, to be headed in the right direction. And I think this would be drastic, and it would give you the capital to do something. It would start that rebuild in the right direction. So I actually really like this. You know, I think it's definitely interesting.
I think Vikings like JJ. They are done with the Kirk Cousins era, and they're like, how can we get this guy JJ coming in the most weapons so he can succeed? And they went and got the 5th overall. They have the 11th. They got a 2nd rounder, an extra 3rd rounder, and one next year.
Yeah.
So I think JJ's got a big smile on his face now, and he's ready to get to work with all these guys.
Yeah. No, I love that. I think it's a really cool trade.
We'll shake up the NFL.
Yeah, I hope we're speaking it into existence here for sure, for sure.
Get him
All
out of
right.
the NFC North. Honestly, that's the main reason I want to do it.
Yeah, get Jefferson out of there. We don't need him.
Yeah.
Send him to LA, all right. So Giants sitting at 6, and they hear about this trade, and they're like, "What the heck? Like, what was this trade? JJ was gonna fall in our laps. We were gonna be absolutely fine." They're getting sick of Daniel Jones, and they're like, "Oh, JJ McCarthy on the clock. I love that." And he went. So this kind of shakes it up for them a little bit. They're sitting at 6 here, and they're like, "Man, our O line stinks. Absolutely stinks." So we got to go O line. We're gonna pick a generational tackle prospect in Joe Alt, and this guy is just flat out sensational. I mean, he's the top tackle on everybody's board, and he should be. This guy is unbelievable, and he's like, he's absolutely ridiculous. Just some of the just look at the blocking film. And
Yeah.
I'm saying like blocking film can be boring. This guy's film was not boring. He was going through people, so many pancakes, all this stuff. And I'm like, wow, like this guy's just athletic. He can move. You can put him in different positions. If you need him to play guard, he can play guard. He's a good pass protector. He's a good run blocker. He's ready now. And that's what the Giants or someone like that would need. And I think it's a clear pick here. You got to pick him at 6.
That's a great pick. Titans were looking at him, so that's rough. Titans were looking for their generational tackle as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Titans still looking tackle, maybe looking receiver since Neighbors and Odunze are dropping a little bit. But since it's me as the GM, I'm not high on Neighbors, so I'm gonna take J.C. Latham, offensive tackle, Alabama. Yeah,
I
I'm gonna
like it.
go reliable Bama boys. He's a big dude. He can move. And if the Titans are gonna restart something, they're gonna have to start with the big guys. And so taking a big Bama boy at number 7 is never a bad move.
I like it. I like it a lot. The Falcons, we're looking at O-line, and now that Latham's off the board, they're gonna be moving on. They're like, okay, the O-line's starting to go. We might as well go with something else. And if you know the Falcons, they really love their running backs. I mean, picking Bijan last year was absolutely insane. It shocked the world. So they're sad that there's no running back that they can pick here. But I mean, like they're sad about that, and they want to build that O line. But if I'm the Falcons here, it's tough because like there's so many receiver prospects still. Like Odunze's on the board, stuff like that, and you got Drake London, but I mean, it's also like we got to build our defense a little bit. The defense was a little bit weak. We probably should have been a playoff team last year with Arthur Smith as our coach. We got a new defensive-minded coach in Raheem Morris. So we're gonna go with an edge rusher, and this leaves us to 2 options. You got Latu from UCLA, or you got Dallas Turner. And I talked about how much I love Dallas Turner. This guy's awesome. But this Latu guy is really, really good. And I think the Falcons would actually draft Latu over him. He's a monster, dude. Like, he does the same stuff. He can play the edge. He can play inside if you need him to. He's just a speed rusher that can really create havoc. And that UCLA defense, they won 7 games in a stacked Pac-12 last year, and they were known for their defense.
Right.
And he plays a smart style. He's always in the right position at the right time. I really think this guy is going to be very good. I like Dallas Turner a little bit more just as a personal thing, but everything that I've seen has them as like literally like the same prospect. I mean, the last mock I looked at, it was 10 and 11 Turner than Latu. Like, these guys are literally the same, and I feel like I could see the Falcons just kind of falling in love with a different version of that guy. And I think they would end up picking Latu at the spot.
Okay. I like that. It's a good pick. Now the Bears,
They're back on the clock.
seems like they took the generational quarterback, and now they still have a bunch of talent in their lap right now, dude.
Yeah. There's a lot
Um,
still there.
yeah, so Bears were looking at could use another weapon for Williams and all these receivers still on the board. You could
Mhm.
go O line for Williams. Just build up your number one pick. You could go. I mean, there's a lot of dudes available. We got Dunze, Neighbors, a couple more O linemen available. I think the Bears. Let's see. I think the Bears with Keenan and DJ Moore, we're gonna go Roma Dunze to be on the opposite side of Keenan Allen. Two deep ball guys that don't drop the ball. And
That's crazy.
then you got your running backs in Swift, and you got your you got your slot guy in DJ Moore,
Oh
and
my
they've got a
god.
complete offense now.
Yeah.
It's gonna be
That's
scary.
that would be really, really scary. Put Caleb giving him Ndunze. Oh my gosh, dude. Wow. That's scary. Especially like we're Lions fans. Like, oh my
Yeah,
gosh. That's
that's a lot to
very
cover.
scary. That's a lot to cover, especially with our poor secondary. Oh boy.
Just
So,
lost one of our DBs to jail.
yeah,
That
I
stinks.
know. Lost one of our DBs to jail, and then the Bears go get Roma Dunze, Caleb. God, that would be tough. That would be tough. But I mean, I think it's a great pick for the Bears. Like at that spot, if Dunze's there, I feel like you just have to take him. You know,
Yeah,
or
or somebody like him.
I mean, I forgot Thomas is still there too. You know, like
Everybody.
yeah, I mean,
These O linemen we're taking are
there's
shaking up the
Thomas
draft.
and Neighbors, and I mean, gosh, like the O line is definitely stacked here, and this is the predicament the Jets find themselves in at 10 because the Jets really, really needed O line, and now they're seeing all these O linemen go off the board, and they're like, man, like, do we have to draft receiver now? Even though you
Yeah.
got a guy like Garrett Wilson, and I mean Malik Neighbors still there, and I feel like it'd be tough to pass on Neighbors. And I think this is where a team gets like, okay, we got to go get Neighbors now. And I think that team is going to end up being, I'm doing this off the top of my head, trying to do it as fast as I can. I think that team is going to be the Colts to move up. They're going to be
Okay.
like, hey, we're sitting at 15. We got Malik Neighbors, who's a sensational receiver prospect. We already have Michael Pittman, who would be great to give Anthony Richardson another weapon to really help him out. We were just short of the playoffs last year, and we should not
Yep.
have been a playoff team last year. So adding another weapon would be absolutely huge. We still got our great O line. Let's trade up to 10, and we'll throw in a fourth along with it, and give them 15. So I think they make that trade, and I think Neighbors would go off the board, whether it's the Colts moving up or somebody else. But I think somebody would be like, hey, this is kind of the spot that Neighbors has to go if he were to fall. And I think somebody would go after that pick and pick him right there.
Cool. I like that trade. Makes sense. I mean, there was Fautanu from Washington
Yeah.
available as a guard tackle. There's a Fashanu from Penn State, a
Yeah.
tackle, and those guys would be great for Rodgers and that or that offense. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's
I feel like the Jets would think that they could do that with 15.
right.
If they were
That's
to,
what I was thinking. Yeah,
yeah. So I think they're
maybe
like,
one of those guys would go in
yeah,
between, but then you get the other one. You
yeah,
know, 'cause
exactly.
yeah,
And at that point, it's like if we're not getting Alt or anybody like that, then
Latham.
there's
Yeah,
really no point, you know, because these other guys to me are similar. Like I think the Penn State tackle is similar to Latham and stuff like that, you know. So
yeah,
I think it would definitely be interesting there, but I think the Jets would then trade out of it if they can't get anybody that they want, you know.
yeah.
Okay.
I like that top 10.
Yeah, no, that was a really good top 10. That was really, really good. Let's do sleepers. Okay. So I asked
Okay.
you to come up with just one this year. Okay. You went absolutely crazy. I said, all right, take the year off. Okay. You don't have to get that many hits on me. I'm not going to expect that much this year. Okay. So I asked you for one. Give me one sleeper that you absolutely love going into this draft.
Okay. Yeah. So last year last year I kind of went one per position on offense, and then a couple defense, and I think like 3 out of 5 of them turned out being very good.
Yeah, which is
Um,
an insane hit
yeah,
rate. Insane.
and yeah, yeah, and so I kind of my thinking behind that was kind of like late first, early seconds, which was those guys um Laporta was early for, or was he?
Like
Yeah, he
second,
was early
second.
second. He was
Yeah,
early
early
second.
second.
Yeah, like those kind of guys, just floating around the 40th pick kind of range.
Yeah.
But this year, I've been hearing a lot about him. I like Chop Robinson out of Penn State. He's an
Okay.
edge rusher,
Yeah. Yep.
and he's kind of got a story. Like I don't think he's going to be picked very early. I really don't know when he's going to be picked. It's kind of just like a who needs him at a certain point when he's still available.
Yeah.
And this is a guy where you look at his stats and they're not that impressive, but he was battling injuries. And this past year, this is his senior year, he missed his junior year. He just looks like a freak when he's playing.
Hmm.
He didn't put up crazy sack numbers or anything like that, but he was making a difference. And when you watch him, he had an insane combine. He ran like a 4.4
Yeah.
as an edge. Is a bunch of his other times were insane. Everyone's just going crazy about his off the ball speed, and that's something that
Yeah.
all NFL guys have, because that's something you can't really teach. That's just like hard work and like your talent of how fast you are, your athleticism. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And so I think he's going to come out and just build, and athleticism wise, he's going to be able to hang with the NFL O lineman, and he's going to make a difference. Don't know when he's going to get picked, but whoever's getting him, I think he's going to be a guy that can make a difference.
Yeah, I like that. I like that completely. I mean, I talked about that Penn State defense all year last year. They were so physical, and especially that D line, it was so tough up front.
Yeah,
You know, like so tough. And I mean, I remember it in the Michigan game. Like they couldn't pass because of how disruptive the edges were. So I think it
right.
was Chop and like the other side. But Michigan's tackle was injured in that game, and like the first 4 plays um of the game when they're passing, like there was just no blocking from the pass blocking on the tackles, and JJ was pressured. And then
Yeah,
everybody's like, wait, why did they only pass the ball? I think it was like once in the second half or whatever it was. Like JJ only passed it 7 times in the game. It was because they couldn't block the edge. They couldn't block him at all. So they were like, all right, let's run. Let's run away
right.
from that side, and that's the only reason they won that game. So Penn State's defense was something I really like to focus on, and last year, and like Chop is definitely, that's a great pick right there, because he was a big part of it, and I mean it was a very very good defense. So I'm looking forward to seeing him move on to the next level. So my sleeper, okay, I thought about doing receiver here. I really like Roman Wilson. He was one of the ones I was really considering. I think he could be very solid. I'm not
Hmm.
gonna pick him though. I wanted to go defensive side. Cooper DeJean was a name I was looking at and was like, yes, like, but I feel like that's gonna be a lot of people's like sleeper late first round guy. My sleeper is gonna be Nate Wiggins,
Okay,
cornerback for Clemson. And
love that.
this guy, he's a little small. He weighed in at 175, which a lot of people were a little concerned on. That's really, really skinny, and you'd like to see him at like the 180s, just for that. But the speed is off the charts, absolutely off the charts. I think it was a 4.2 he ran, which people were going absolutely ballistic about. Those guys with that speed at that corner position, it's just scary, man. It's flat out scary.
Yeah,
So, I mean, I'm really looking forward to seeing how he can be impactful. He's very good in zone. He's very good in man. And the Clemson defense was solid last year. I expected way more from Clemson than what we actually got. But I'm looking forward to see how he moves into the next level. He's sitting as the number 3 corner. I think Terran Arnold's ahead of him, and then you got Kool-Aid McKinstry up there and people like that. So, I mean, I'm looking forward to see how he moves into the next level, and I think he'll be a very solid corner. But if you have speed at that corner position, it's very valuable. You can guard slots, you can guard the outside. I think he'll
right.
be a very valuable piece.
Yeah, I think that's a great pick. I was looking at him about a month ago, as a guy that I would want the Lions to take,
Uh,
potentially. I think he's coming off. Did he get hurt or
yeah,
something? And like
yeah. I think
like
he got
broke his
hurt.
leg or something.
Yeah.
Like nothing crazy, but something he has to recover from.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I was looking at him a lot because he looks like someone that could help the Lions secondary,
For
and
sure.
I like that pick as a sleeper. Yeah,
Yeah. Lions looking at Kool-Aid McKinstry also.
that would
Um,
be insane if he fell to us. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, like his film wasn't great this year, and I think that shocked a lot of people with Kool-Aid because he was
yeah,
like going into the year he was a defensive name to watch, and it just seemed like the consistency was just a little off. Like I listened to McShay talk about him, and he was talking about his consistency was just a little off, and people didn't love that. Like if he could have gone out last year, it would have been like a top 10 pick almost,
right.
But kind of fell off, and he's actually I've seen him in second round in some boards. So it's looking like the Lions could end up with him, which I think would be a great pick there.
I would like that. Yeah,
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, Aaron, this has been a lot of fun, man. Our second edition of the NFL draft preview, man. This has
yep,
been a lot of fun. I really appreciate you coming on, man. This is awesome.
yeah, for sure. That was awesome. Thanks
Yes,
for having
sir.
me, bro.
Yes, sir. No problem. No problem. All right. Well, that's going to wrap up Jake's takes for today. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I will see you next time. Peace.